Aloha nerds, and welcome back to another episode of the Salawag's Why It's Great Gut Reaction. On this show, I watch things and react from the gut. So today, I'm doing a little special on a particular scene out of Split. I have not done a full review on Split so far, but I'm going to go over some highlights that I want to bring up anyway. Split, for those who don't know, is the second part in a three-part trilogy, starting off with Unbreakable in 2000. M. Night Shyamalan, as he explains, made this story about Unbreakable, David Dunn, starring Bruce Willis, about a man who, his son thinks of him as Superman. It's the classic tale of a son who looks up to his father. But what if his father actually was Superman? And in that story, David Dunn finds out he's unbreakable. He cannot be harmed, except for a weakness to water. It's a great film. Samuel L. Jackson gives one of my favorite performances that I've seen him do ever as Mr. Glass, as he's called at the end of the movie. I really love and relate to the majority of Unbreakable. I do think they waste Robin Wright Penn's talents a little bit. She's just kind of a bland love interest in that movie, but her role does have a function in the overall theme of a regular guy realizing he's not a regular guy in the most sort of believable, real way possible. Now, cut to over a decade later, M. Night Shyamalan, who himself has now had kids of his own and has tried to make more kid-friendly products. His kids are now grown and he feels free to make stuff he wants to make again. And he has come back swinging with the movie Split. Split starring Anya Taylor-Joy and James McAvoy, who most people know as the younger Professor X from the new X-Men movies. And I gotta say, McAvoy plays the Horde, who is a guy who has multiple personality disorder. And the Horde is very excited for a new personality to emerge that has supposedly superhuman strength, the ability to climb on walls, and is ultimately the new form of evolution of man. That's what he's supposed to be. And there's a religious awe around this new persona, as if it deserves to feed on young, innocent women. But we learn without spoiling too much, the premise of Split is three high school girls who are just finishing up a little high school class party at some random restaurant. Three high school girls are the last to leave, end up being abducted by the Horde, by this man suffering from dissociative personality disorder. And throughout the movie, he showcases his multiple personalities as he locks them up in this little room. He becomes taken over by the other personalities, one of the main ones of which is Hedwig, a 9-year-old boy. So we're seeing James McAvoy go from being this sort of gruff, blue-collar dressed man to being dressed like a little 10-year-old, goofing around, dancing, trying to impress girls and trying to make Anya Taylor-Joy his girlfriend. And another personality wears this very body-hugging dress, and she's very, very reserved, but also very controlling. And the blue-collar personality has OCD, and he himself has the affliction for being attracted to younger women. So you see throughout the course of these handful of personality descriptions, there's like this inner conflict within this guy. Like, yes, he has this attraction to these young women, but there's also a need not to hurt them at the same time. He's got some super conflict going on within him. And that conflict, Anya Taylor-Joy picks up on through befriending Hedwig, the 9-year-old boy who has a crush on her. And they make a friendship, and the girls try to escape many different times. A couple of them being at times where they're interacting with Hedwig and convincing him to go along with their little plans, and maybe they'll get a date or a kiss or something. It's a movie that on a certain level, it's a pretty straightforward horror thriller movie because of, you got the classic uh, three beautiful high school girls trapped in a horror situation. But on another level, we have this religious sort of within the horde, this religious expectation of another personality who's supposed to be superhuman. So we don't know when watching this movie that this is actually connected to Unbreakable. As far as this movie seems, this could be a supernatural thing. It could just be the guy being crazy. We don't really get to know until the final moments of the movie. And what's powerful is that, and I'm going to get into spoilers now. So if you're interested in all by this movie, I don't know how, my description's kind of rough, but go see Split. It's a really great thriller movie where you're going to be wondering what's going to happen next, all the way to the last moment. All the escape attempts and the scares are really great, and the character work. There's a doctor. I forget the name of the actress who plays her, but there's a doctor who the horde goes to for regular sort of therapy to help sort of make sure the horde, whose real name is Kevin, to make sure they're getting along okay. We're going to work, paying their bills, all that stuff. But all the while, let me get into spoilers now. Like I said, very entertaining movie, great thriller. You don't even really need to watch Unbreakable first. These movies are connected. I think Split works so great because you can watch it by itself and just be caught up into wondering what the heck's going on. But again, like I said, the majority of this movie, we don't know if anything supernatural or superhuman is actually going to happen, but we spend a lot of time building up to it. But okay, spoilers now. Part of the structure of this movie is every time the main character passes out or goes to sleep, she remembers being a kid, and that as a kid, when she was out hunting with her father and her uncle had abused her. And she remembers trying to shoot her own uncle, but being too scared to do it, and ultimately listening to him and succumbing to him and doing whatever he says for years. And it's revealed about later on in the movie, maybe in the two-thirds about the way in, it's revealed that the father dies and she came into the care of the uncle. So she's basically been living with the uncle up until this point. And one of the very first scenes in the movie is at the restaurant where the class party has ended, and we just see Anya Taylor-Joy waiting by the window, waiting for everyone to leave so that she can run away. And it's the other two girls who are going to be kidnapped. They're the ones who threw the party in the first place. And the dad is with them saying, "What's up with that girl? Why is she waiting for a ride?" And they're like, "We don't know. She gets into a lot of trouble in school, and she runs away from home a lot. I don't know." And it's established from the outside point of view that this is just some kind of problem child. There's something wrong with her. That's the way the world sees her, because the world doesn't know what's going on. And very much this is the true nature of people. I think a lot of times people act out because they need help. And people not really wanting to pay attention to that, really being impatient and just thinking about their own lives and their own point of view, just sees that person as a troublemaker who you should steer clear from. Sometimes it's a right instinct and sometimes it's a wrong instinct. But in this case, the truth is she's probably trying to escape again. She's probably trying to run away from her home again, where she is continually being abused by her uncle. So we have this whole sort of seemingly unrelated subplot of these flashbacks with the uncle. And it comes all the way to the final moments of the movie, where the other two girls have spoiled. Remember, this is spoilers. So if you're interested, go watch Split and then come back. This is a spoiler review. And I'm really talking about one scene in particular, but I have to explain all this to get to that. So it takes all these flashbacks and all these escape attempts from these girls to try and get away from the guy. And even it goes so far as the therapist sort of figures out that something's wrong because the horde keeps coming back, pretending to be one of the personalities, a personality pretending to be another personality. And so she goes to find where the horde lives and say, hey, what's going on? And discovers the girls are trapped there. It's not even on the news yet. And even she pays the price for trying to help them. But it takes all of this build-up, all of these flashbacks, and really the final moments of the movie, Anya Taylor-Joy, our main girl, gets a shotgun again, and she gets to stand up against the beast, the horde's religious personality, the beast, the finest form of human evolution. And we learn over the course of the movie that Kevin Wendell Crumb, who is the main identity, the primary identity of this person, the original identity, we come to learn over the course of this movie that he was horrifically abused by his own mother, and that at some point he lost his dad when his dad got on the train. His dad got on the train and never came back, and that's all he knows. And so he just has this decades of pain and suffering that have not been dealt with correctly, and so they formed into this multiple personality scenario. That's basically the origin of this guy. We're learning he has a history of abuse and she has a history of abuse, and if you see a lot of these videos about people who abuse children or abuse other people, even domestic violence, with a husband abusing a wife or vice versa, you hear about a lot of these, and you'll find most often they were experiencing the same thing when they were kids. So history repeats itself because the person never got that right guidance to not be that way. They saw it, and even if maybe people did try to save them, they still grew up and started repeating those behaviors. And that's essentially what's happening with Kevin Wendell Crumb. He grew up with horrific abuse, and he has transformed it into these multiple personalities, each trying to deal with an aspect of the abuse. Again, the maternal one is the controlling one. She's the one really in charge of the entire scenario and driving this belief into the beast, the ultimate evolution of man. That is what Kevin is supposed to evolve into with his latest personality. That's what they're all waiting for. And McAvoy gives an awesome performance as all of these different characters, and also with how he transforms. They do add some computer animated veins when he transforms into the beast, but other than that, he gives this great, you can, almost like the Hulk, you can feel him transforming. He does a really fantastic job. But all of this leads to the final scene in the movie where the other girls have been eaten, and Casey, played by Anya Taylor-Joy, is the last one to run, and she gets the furthest, but the beast is chasing after her and bites her leg, and so the only thing she can do is put herself in a cage to have some barrier between her and the beast. But she has a shotgun. She manages to find a shotgun that Kevin intended to use on himself should any of his personalities ever do something unforgivable. And so she uses the shotgun on the beast, and he keeps coming. So we don't know. The way it's shot, it really feels like it could go either way. She shoots him twice, and we do see some of the bullets hit the bars instead of him, but enough shrapnel still flies by to blow him back. So it's unclear, but when we see him stand up and his wounds, it's clear he did take some kind of severe wound. But then he just starts going mad and starts bending the bars to get to her, and this is the scene I wanted to talk about. And again, I need to pull back a little bit more again. So we have established one of his personalities is a creeper. He's a big blue collar working creeper who has OCD. And he is the one who's attracted to the young women and wants to do stuff with them. But the other personalities keep him in line and say, no, 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 no. She's not for your entertainment. She is for the beast. The beast needs to be fed so that he can do what he wants to do, whatever he's here for to do. But throughout the story, he keeps finding his own little way around the rules, and so anytime the girls escape and they get dirt or dust on their clothes, that dirt and dust freaks him out so much that he tells them, well, you have to take that clothes off. You have to take it off. He doesn't bother washing their clothes and giving them their clothes back. But you see the other two girls basically are in their underwear by the end of the movie. And, but in the case of Casey is always she's wearing thick, thick layers. She's hiding herself. And she's hiding herself for a reason, because every single time she takes off clothing, she has another piece of clothing underneath it. And it just kind of annoys the Horde. Like, you have a lot of layers. Why do you have so many layers? And basically by the end of the movie, she's not down to her underwear, but she's down to just her sort of undershirt and her pants. Basically, I think she's got pants. But when the beast is pulling apart the bars, he sees her, and he sees scars from scratching herself, and scars on her stomach from trying to scratch herself and cut herself. And he even sees the bandages around her wrists from all the time she's tried to hurt and harm herself. Maybe she didn't truly fully want to die, but she wanted to escape. These were cries for help. But she's hidden these cries for help under all these layers. All this stuff is going on underneath her, like the iceberg. You only see the top, and you can make your assumptions about that iceberg based on the top, but so much more is going underneath the surface. And that's what she is. And so the beast sees these wounds, and then he stops trying to open the bars, and he stops trying to attack her, and he smiles. And he has a religious sense of relief. He says, "Rejoice, rejoice. The broken are the more evolved. Rejoice." And he gives her comfort. And he sees all of her, not her nude, but in essence, he sees her story of wounding herself and being harmed, that she has some kind of great damage that's been done to her to lead her to do this. He sees all of that because that's how he feels about himself. Hence, the shotgun that she has was meant for him. You know, they both are these two people who are so deeply wounded and have come to suicide as the solution for themselves because they're so deeply damaged and hurt by the world. But ironically, the monster that has been terrifying her, she gets the circular loop of the story of when her uncle was standing in front of her with the shotgun, she didn't pull the trigger. She didn't kill her uncle. But this time she's standing up for herself. And she had to be pushed that far. The story took a horror movie scenario for this girl to finally realize that she has this capability to stand up and fight for herself. So that's the first level. That's the classic story level for any horror movie, is that typically there's a character who is more afraid than the rest, who must rise to the occasion and finally be brave. That's the typical horror movie level one. You know, that's what Evil Dead does. That's what Ash Williams, and that's one level. But then the other level is that the monster recognized her pain because he shared the same pain. This long time trauma and abuse from someone who is supposed to care about you that creates in your head this portal that makes you think it's okay to hurt yourself. and hide yourself and bury yourself, because while she was buried in clothing, he buried himself in personalities, each personality to help him just cope with the reality that he couldn't deal with. You know, some people can go through horrific things and still come out functional and get a family and have that. And some people go through horrific things and they can't. And the nature versus nurture, I mean, you can't quantify these things. You know, what makes a person, you cannot be quantified. But that's what being human is, and that's what this whole moment is about. This sequence is about two wounded animals who are in the process of healing and overcoming and standing their own ground, finally coming to terms with themselves in some kind of way. In the case of Kevin Wendell Crumb, he's gone fully into the darkness and fully into his beast form. And on Anya Taylor-Joy's side, she has come to the light. Her pain has been exposed, but she's realized that she has the strength to stand up for herself. And it's a really beautiful sequence where one of the workers, they determine, it's revealed that they've been hiding in some kind of living space underneath the zoo. And this worker finds her in that cage because his living space is so far away from the zoo, but it's still within the compound. But where she was near where the workers go. So one of the workers finds her and brings her out, and all these cops show up, and while sitting in the cop car, there's this beautiful moment, and it's really my favorite moment in the movie. My second favorite after this rejoice scene. My second favorite moment in the movie is when this female officer, opens the door and says, "Hey, your uncle's here to pick you up." And Casey at first she's kind of afraid, and then she just decides to stay still. And she keeps her head up and she says nothing. And the cop realizes, oh, you're not excited to see your uncle. And even though nothing needs to be said, this is like the classic Hitchcockian storytelling. Nothing needs to be said at this point. We know she's going to tell the cop what's been going on, and she's going to get away from her uncle. But we only know that because she had the bravery to stand up to the beast. And what the beast said to her affected her in some kind of deep way, where this thing that she was so terrified of recognized her and saw her as beautiful and saw her as something like itself. It's like, you and me are both evolved. So rejoice. You're good. You're good in my book. I don't need to eat you because you're already one of the evolved things that I'm supposed to help come into existence. And that really affected her in a wild kind of way. And I'll tell you this, at the time I was watching this, it was post-college years. It was a little over around 10 years ago. I'm not even 100% sure. And I had a mixed group of friends at the time. And I mean, I'm mixed myself, but I mean, I had and we all have our various cultural baggages about, how we're represented in the media, how we feel around other people because of our personal baggages, and how we act even amongst each other because we have this baggage. And this was something that we were all pretty open about. And I just thought it was so powerful watching that movie, sitting with all of them. And it was kind of like a message to all of us. It's like, yes, like, you are damaged, but it's okay. Your damage, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Your damage has made you more evolved. You can see the world as it is, and you can do stuff that others can't do because of that damage. And that was such a powerful message that I felt watching the movie. And I think they felt too, but maybe they couldn't articulate. But it's always left me with that feeling of feeling more accepting of myself I have my own wounds. I don't have any scars to show you, but I have my own wounds and secrets and pains. And there's just something really relieving about a movie where being the most wounded, broken person is actually what saves you from the thing you're scared the most of. That's such a powerful thing, and it's such a powerful message to people who are hurt to just keep going, and that you'll find someone who recognizes you and gives you the strength to stand up to the dark thing that you're fighting or overcome the pain that you've had to deal with for so long. Somewhere out there is someone who's going to recognize you and help you in a kind of way that can't be explained with words. Even if they say very clearly words that mean something to you, the effect itself may not be able to be explained with words. And I think that's what's powerful about the ending of the movie and Anya Taylor-Joy's performance. Definitely my favorite performance from her, even though she keeps doing great performances in great movies. But because of her reaction to Rejoice, and you can just see how she's got this conflict as well of like, how do I take this? But at the same time, he just said, I'm okay. This scary monster said, I'm okay. And it's the first person in the entire movie who said she's okay. Because again, we start off this movie with the judgment of her fellow classmates who get eaten. And we understand that as far as her universe goes, teachers are freaked out by her classmates are freaked out by her uncle abuses her. She has nowhere to go to feel safe and to feel recognized and feel like someone gets her. But at long last, this, of all people, the monster of the movie is the one that recognizes her and sees the beauty in her and sees the beauty in her pain and says, no, your pain doesn't make you weak, it makes you strong. It gives you something, an edge over everyone else. And the truth be told, she did have an edge over everyone else. Early on, when the blue-collar personality first greets the girls, and they're all trapped in this random bedroom with no windows, he tries to take one of the girls and fool around with her, but before he can get her out of the room, Casey grabs her and says, pee on him, pee on him. And she says it quietly and quickly, and then the girl does. She pees on the she pees on the blue collar pervert, and that's what makes him, because he has OCD, right? So that makes him so grossed out, he shoves the girl back into the room with the other girls. And it's just one of those clues that Casey has been through this before and had found one way to get out of the situation. And it's messed up. It's a really dark, sad, messed up thing. But at the same time, it's that pain that allowed her to save her friend for at least one round. It saved her friend for one round. Unfortunately, they didn't make it out of the next two rounds with that guy. But it was something that gave her an edge. And the very fact that she's always trying to escape, and people are talking about that right from the beginning of the movie. That's what she's doing. She's not panicking like the other girls. She's thinking about the situation and waiting for an opportunity to present itself. But she's also very certain that they're probably all going to die. And so to have her character start off that way, to start off as a mystery, shrouded in mystery, shrouded in clothes, her secrets are buried, except you get these little hints. You get these little hints in how she solves these little problems, how she deals with Hedwig, is that she understands that sometimes to get what you want, you have to give the other person what they want, or lead them on to think they're going to get it in order to get yourself into a position where you can rescue yourself. So it's a complex movie, but I really like the richness of the Casey character played by Anya Taylor-Joy. It's perfectly directed, I think, by M. Night Shyamalan. But again, rejoice. 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 I think that's the most important, powerful thing about the movie Split, is that it does exist to comfort those who have suffered. and to tell you that your suffering was not for nothing. The fact that you press on, that is a power in of itself. It's a power that I think very much this, even the deaths of the other girls, it's a symbolism that, those who are not tried and tested, in real life it would just, actually no, in real life that's what would happen. But in a metaphorical way, it's like those who have not been through things and survived oftentimes will just succumb to the weather. They'll just succumb to whatever hits them because they're not actually ready for it. But those who have been through the hard times and survived have developed tools to survive. The point is to make those tools go in healthy usage. To stop hiding, stop running away. You have to stand up to your demon. You have to stand up to your demon. You have to stand up and say your truth and get away from that evil. But she could only do it, ironically, after confronting a potentially even worse evil, which is this horde, the beast himself. But that's when she knew she had the strength. And so I just think that's beautiful story construction. It's very meaningful storytelling. I've mentioned this before, but there's the triangle of why you're making a movie. There's the why are you making the movie, there's the how are you going to make the movie, and then there's the flow of the movie and what actually works in terms of telling that story. And that's the dance that you have to make as a filmmaker in order to tell a good story. You have to dance between those things. So here I am sitting next to you, this gelatinous, pudgy mass, and telling you, rejoice, rejoice. Whatever your wounds may be and whatever you might think is wrong with you, it's okay, You're still you, and you still have value. Just because someone hurt you a long time ago or is still hurting you now doesn't mean you don't have value and that you're not wonderful and worth living, and that you shouldn't try to get out of this situation. Even if the villain is you, even if you are out of a horrific situation and the villain is yourself, it's rejoice, Your scars make you beautiful. You're beautiful anyway. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And someday you will find someone who recognizes you and accepts you and sees you as okay. You will find this person. Perhaps there'll just be a writing on a scrap of paper that you find on the street, and it'll tell you that you're okay. I think that's a very powerful message. It was definitely powerful for me. It's part of what motivated me to start making this podcast, is I thought I have some crazy thoughts I want to get out of my head. But I have these crazy thoughts because movies have much more meaning than just entertainment. That they are a way to speak to people without the words that are obviously being stated. And as long as filmmakers keep making movies that way, I'll keep having something to say about it. So, thank you, M. Night Shyamalan, for making a fantastically layered, beautiful piece of storytelling. I really think Split is among his best films. Again, that finale, the rejoice, it's powerful. It's really powerful. And of course, the movie later has a scene before before the credits go up, where it connects back to Unbreakable. But even without that, I think this movie is so powerful and good. I think the movie could have ended just as well with no knowledge of where he went. I think it's more of a treat for the audience to see him one more time, James McAvoy one more time, and see him looking at his wounds healing, and you kind of realize that, okay, this is these things are real, and we're gonna get more. So I think that's more of a treat for the audience, but I do feel like the movie ends perfectly when Casey decides that she's gonna not go to her uncle, and the cop realizes that Casey has something to say. I think that's the perfect ending to this movie as its own individual film. But beyond that, the last two scenes where we see James McAvoy again celebrating that he's become the Beast, and we see David Dunn, Bruce Willis again connecting back to Unbreakable. I really feel like those are just treats for the audience to support the next movie. But this movie is perfect with Rejoice and the cop scene. That's the way it should have ended, as its individual pocket film. But anyway, that being said, that's what I wanted to talk about. I just really felt that was a powerful scene that deserves to be discussed and respected. And if you are such a person out there going through any of the things discussed in this movie, please don't be afraid to reach out for help and talk to somebody. Or if you were affected by the scene the way I was, feel free to talk about it in the comments. I'm happy to have a conversation. I don't want any trolling. I don't want any disrespectful talk in my comments. I'll just delete you. But really, I'm down for some honest conversation. If this movie had the same effect on you, or if looking at it this way had some effect on you, I'd love to hear about it. Please let me know in the comments. And understand, hey, maybe your comment might help the next person. Like I said, a scrap of paper, or just a couple words that you say might seriously help the next person. So, again, if you are struggling with suicidal thoughts, if you've had a traumatic history of any kind, even if it's just recent, don't be afraid to reach out for help. And if the person that helps you is not right for you, that's okay. Just acknowledge that they're not right for you and keep looking for a person that will help you the right way for you. That's what I gotta say. And like I said, I've been through my own hard times, and I've come out the other side. I've been lucky to have certain influences in my life, my family, certain friends at the right exact time. Otherwise, who knows, I might be the Beast right now to somebody else. Wait a minute. I might be the Beast. Oh no. Run! Run! Oh, I'm going to eat all the cookies. Ah!